Hello and welcome to Basics of WyoRecords 1, Teaching Students to Register. The goal of this video is to give a crash course to any advisor, faculty, or staff member that's trying to help a student learn how to register for classes. This is a pretty quick introduction. We'll go into far more detail in later trainings. The first thing a student must do is complete their pre-registration checklist. We have an additional video that covers this in more detail, but we thought it was important to add here too. For a student, when they're logged in, they can click on Prepare for Registration. This brings us to the Prepare for Registration page, which is also known as the Registration Status page. This page shows a lot of information for the student. It shows when the student can register, which is very valuable information. It shows if the student has any holds on their account, which may prevent registration. And it also shows their pre-registration checklist, which includes these 4 links which a student has to do each term before they register. Now these 4 a student can work through quickly and get done. If they have any holds which prevent registration, that's going to make the issue a little more complicated, and then they'll have to deal with those holds before they try to register. Some common holds for incoming new students are the MMR verification and the synergy selection if the student is admitted with support. 2 common holds which prevent registration for a continuing student are a bursar's hold if they have a payment past due, or a dean of students hold, which can be a conduct hold or something like that. Once the pre-registration is complete and the student doesn't have any holds, they can go to their registration page by clicking Register for Classes, and then it takes them to select the term. This program always asks a student to select the term, so be sure the student is selecting the appropriate term. Once the student selects the term, it will prompt them for a PERC number. The PERC number is a personal electronic registration code, which is the way that the University of Wyoming mandates advising. A student must get their PERC from their primary academic advisor or from their department. Once the student enters the PERC, it will take them to their registration page, which defaults to the Find Classes. If you look at the top here, we see other options for entering CRNs, plans, and then schedules and options. We'll go into more detail about entering CRNs and using the plans in more advanced trainings. But for here, we can search for a class by typing in the subject, the department that teaches the course. And so by just starting to type in psychology, the program populates psychology. If I click on that, it'll come up into the box. And if I know the course number, I can insert the course number into the course number box and then click search. This is the quickest way to bring up a class. And so here we see there's 3 sections of general psychology, and there's a lot of information on this screen that's important for a student to see. Going from left to right, we see the title of the class, general psychology. We see the subject, psychology. We see the course number. We see the section number. So there's 3 sections of this class being taught. And then we see the credit hours. And then we see the CRN, which is the course reference number. We can see who's teaching the class. And then perhaps most importantly for this moment in a student's life, the meeting times, right? So we can see this first section is Tuesday, Thursday from 11 to 12:15. We can also see the status, right? So this shows us how many seats are available in the course. So this first section, there are 27 seats out of 180 total seats available. So for a student to register for this class, they click Add, and they'll see it populate down in the lower left in a weekly schedule as to when the class is going to be. And then they'll also see it populate in the lower right in the summary. Now it's very important to see here that this class is pending, right? It's not registered yet, it's just in the summary. And so this is a nice way of thinking of it, that it's kind of like online shopping, and you've put it in your cart but you haven't purchased it yet. It's very important for the student to hit submit and to do this quickly before they may get timed out of the program. Once they hit submit, the class will register, it will load and register, and we can see that here because the class has now, the status of the class in the summary has gone from pending to registered, highlighted in green. This is the way that a student knows they're officially registered for the course. We can see down at the bottom of the summary that the student is officially registered in 3 credit hours, and the billing says 3 credit hours. Now, for a student, if they want to drop this course, they can do that by using this drop-down menu and select the option Drop via Web, and then hit Submit, and the class goes away. So now we want to talk a little bit more detail about how we can find more information about a class when a student is surfing around trying to find a class that will work for their schedule. So I brought up a class here. This is English 1101, which is the first year seminar. So there's 2 sections here. Now they're different sections. We can see that by the title. But if we click on the title is a link. And so if we click there, it brings us another window with lots of information. It defaults to the class details here at the top, but we can see a long list of links that come down the side of this menu. Most important for a student who's getting registered will be the course description here. They can see a course description of the class. It's always important for them to read that. They can click on restrictions. And so here, this is a good example for a class that has quite a few restrictions. The first year seminar on our campus is restricted to students that are in their first year, and we see that here. Looking at the restrictions will really help a student avoid frustrating situations where they're trying to add a class that they're not allowed to take. Third here that's important is to just take a look at the prerequisites. This helps, again, alleviate any frustration for students when they're trying to get into a class that they may not be eligible to take. The next item here is to understand a linked course, and so I brought up another example, General Biology, our Life Sciences 1010 on campus. We can see over here in the status, underneath where it says there's 24 out of 195 seats available, we see that it's linked. This is key. It means that there are multiple aspects to registering for this class. For this in particular, a student has to register for both the lecture, which we see here are the first 3 sections, as well as a laboratory. And so there's lots of lab times for this general biology course because a lot of students take it. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. We can simply click Add on one of the lectures and add on one of the labs. And so then we get both parts to the linked course in our summary. Now, that's a quick way. Another way, which is pretty convenient, is to click on the View Linked button of the lecture that you want to do. When you do that, it'll bring up all possible lab options for that lecture. And so here we see the first one is Life Sciences 1010, section 27. And so if I were to click Add All on this one, it automatically remembers the lecture that I selected, and it adds both the lab and the lecture into my summary and into my week. Now, we see on here the class is pending, and if I tried to add this class, I would get an error for multiple reasons. We can see over in the weekly grid that the lab time conflicts with general psychology, and we saw before that the class was full, the lab time was full, and so I wouldn't be able to add it for that reason also. So I would have to go back and continue my search and find options that would work before I could click Submit. And so here is an example of a finalized schedule. We see a couple of things here. We see the week and nothing's pending, everything's registered. We see in the summary everything is registered, and at the bottom we see the student is registered for 16 credit hours, and that's a good full-time course load. Now, if I use the Schedules and Options link at the top, it brings me to another view, which is pretty convenient. But what's most convenient here, and as the student's wrapping up their registration, we would like to encourage them to look at these 3 options up here, the University Store, and then there's an email icon. and a printer icon. The university store will take them to a bookstore link showing them all the books that they need for their classes. The email icon, they can email their schedule to themselves. They can email it to anyone else that they want to share it with. They can even add it to a Google Calendar or an iCalendar. And then the printer icon allows them to print the schedule, and the printout is pretty nice. It has also the times of the classes and the locations of the classes. That's a common question from students, is how do I know when and where my classes are? And so if they use this printout, they can then tour around campus and find their classes. We hope you found this helpful in assisting students to learn to register for classes at the University of Wyoming. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon.